Hi, my name is Jennifer Flynn, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the light reactions involved in photosynthesis. These reactions can be split up into two: photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Photosystem 2 mostly depicts the process of ADP changing into ATP using light energy or photons of light, and then photosystem 1 is going to be depicting the hydrogens being used to change NADP into NADPH. And I do have a messy diagram, I'm sorry for my bad artwork. So I drew here the photon of light, and it's going to go through the green chlorophyll that's in the chloroplast. It gives the chloroplast its green color. And on this side here, you'll see photosystem 2. It's going to use the electrons gained from these photons of light that were energized in the chlorophyll, and it's going to change this ADP into ATP. Now, it's going to do this through different, it's going to do this through the electron transport chain mostly, but what's happening here is in the electron transport chain, it's gaining a phosphate molecule, and this happens by way of ATP synthase. So ATP synthase is basically the process of ADP forming ATP, and that happens again in the stroma, even though the whole light reaction is just going to occur in the thylakoid membrane. Now for chlorophyll, for photosystem 1, it's a little bit more complicated because it involves more molecules and everything, and it's a little messy. I'm sorry, I'm not a good artist. Okay, so what you're going to have is these electrons that were formed from the chlorophyll being energized. They have electrons here, and these electrons are going to be deposited into the two hydrogen. Into these two hydrogen. These two hydrogen come from this water molecule being split. And now the process of splitting that water molecule is called oxygen. It's an oxygen evolving complex. So that's what this is right here. It's the process of splitting the water molecule and leaving out these two, or this one oxygen. But it's, the more this happens, the more oxygen you're going to have being released. And that's actually the oxygen that we breathe. So this process is NADP changing into NADPH. Now these hydrogen come from this water splitting molecule. This water is going to split, and it is going to go, say you have two water molecules, because then you have like an abundant amount, not abundant, but you have plenty of water molecules. So when two are split, two hydrogens are donated here, you're left with two hydrogens, and with the total of two water molecules, and two hydrogens leave, you're left with two oxygen and two hydrogen. And those are going to be right here, this 2OH, and it's going to deposit one of these oxygens. That way you have extra water left over, and it's just going to be this tiny little complex cycle here, and it's just going to keep depositing water every time these water molecules are broken down. And these hydrogens are just going to keep getting used over here. Now, the enzyme that accepts these hydrogens is called a plastoquinone, and they accept it and they transfer it. Basically, they're like the last electron transfer or electron acceptor until it gets put into the NADPH. So this NADP with a little plus sign, with a little plus sign right here, it is going to be added into this molecule here with the hydrogens, and you're going to get NADPH plus an extra hydrogen, because it only needs one, but hydrogen is a diatomic molecule, so it travels in twos. So that's what you're going to have here. That's why this right here, half of the O2, instead of just saying O, you have to say half of the O2, because oxygen also travels in pairs, so it wouldn't really make sense to just say it's leaving one oxygen, because it would just be leaving half of a oxygen molecule, which is 2. So that kind of makes up all of the photosystem 2. And let me just make sure that I spoke about everything that needed to be spoken about. We covered ATP synthase. One more thing. It's called ferredoxin NADP reductase. That is right here, yes. That is going to be how the last hydrogen, it's going to be the enzyme that helps that last hydrogen attach to the NADPH, or the NADP, I'm sorry. And it's just an enzyme, and you know that by it ending in ACE, reductase. So it's going to help reduce this NADP by adding that electron right here with the H, even though you're having that extra H left over. It'll bind to another electron and it'll be in the cell as H2, not just H because it's diatomic. So that looks like everything covered, everything important covered for the light reaction for photosynthesis. And all of that, by the way, occurs in the thylakoid membrane. And the electron transport chain specifically occurs in the stroma of the thylakoid membrane. So that looks like everything for that. Thank you.